couldn't resist spending the night with his boss. When I came back home, it was emptied. My name is Kaylee Robinson, female 29, and my husband is Kyle Smith, male 31. We started off as friends for like 7 to 8 months. Then things got serious between us. My love with Kyle was a bliss. I knew I was secured with him. I didn't even need to ask because even a small child would see the love we had for each other. He made sure to always hold me in high regards, spoil me in everything. You know when they say, I respect even the soil that she steps on, that was Kyle with me. He respected me to a point that even today I still regret ever going outside our marriage to get what I didn't have, which was happiness. Kyle and I first met at an ultra music festival that always takes place around March 20-something in New York. It is a few days festival, or let me say it is the whole weekend festival, and I always make sure not to miss it. Well, me and my sister always made sure to never miss it. It was like our tradition to always attend an ultra music festival. So as we were busy dancing and enjoying the music with my sister, I decided to leave them a little and go to some trailer that was selling food and drinks. When I got here, I ordered my food since I was somehow hungry, and as I was about to pay, there came this handsome random guy. He greeted us, me and the food seller, and the seller that he was going to pay for both my order and his. Well, at first I found that really weird and unsettling because in my world we no longer had Good Samaritans, so I wondered what the guy had wanted because we didn't even know each other. So I thanked him for the kind gesture, and we continued chatting for a while. He was actually a very fun and sophisticated guy. Besides his charming and handsome self, he was what we call the IT guy. His blue hazel eyes were very hypnotizing. He was also a very sweet person and good company. We hung around for like an hour or two until one of my siblings approached us and told me that we had to go since it was getting pretty late. So Kyle and I exchanged numbers and promised each other that we would continue to chat over the phone. 3 days later, I received his call asking to meet up with him since he was around New York City, where I was staying. I agreed to the meetup and we met at a local cafe that was not far from my home. We spent a lot of time chatting about our goals and objectives. It was really fun and a breath of fresh air to spend some time with him. I loved the fact that he was the guy with ambition and consistency to reach his goal in the entertainment industry since he was a filming producer. We had a lot in common, since I was also an aspiring actress. I was glad to find someone like him who would guide me, coach me, and help me build my acting career. That is what I had thought when I got into a relationship with him. Little did I know that I was getting myself a trap. There were red flags that I had noticed about him, but the way he was smooth with words, the way he knew how to make a lady melt and happy without even trying hard made me put all that aside and focus on the present. Kyle was working as a film and music producer to one of the aspiring entertainment and filming companies in Manhattan. So I had moved in with Kyle after we dated for like 8 months. Well, the reason why I had moved in with him was because I wanted to be closer to him. I mean, he was more like my oxygen and I couldn't live without him. Our relationship was more like an obsessive relationship. It was kind of toxic, but we enjoyed it like that. I don't know, maybe I was too much within his grip and blinded by love, but I didn't find anything wrong with how our relationship was toxic. Time passed, I think a year ended, then Kyle proposed. We got married 6 months after he had proposed. Well, he wanted us to get married in 2 weeks after he had proposed, but I convinced him to be patient because a wedding needs planning and time. I don't know why I was so attached to him because we were two different people, but I was very much attracted to him. You know, when you really or deeply love a person, every time when you see them or think of them, your heart skips a bit. Not to mention when they touch you or talk to you. There are those butterfly things that always tingle you in your stomach and somehow find yourself blushing. That's what was happening to me. He had all the right words to say to make me melt, and I fell for him every minute. We got married, and that event where he attacked the guy, his colleague or boss to be precise, for kissing my hand happened. We spoke about it, and he told me the whole story about his childhood, which was something he didn't want to share during our dating phase. He shared a lot about him that I didn't even know. I mean, I would ask about his past and parents. He would only tell me that his parents had passed on and nothing more. He even warned his boss colleague, saying that I should be careful and he doesn't want me anywhere near him. My husband is a very loving, understanding, and a very romantic person. He always makes sure to show genuine love to those he holds dear in his heart. I was one of those he held dear in his heart. When Kyle was growing, he had a condition called intermittent explosive disorder, IED, which is a mental health condition marked by frequent impulsive anger outbursts or aggression. Well, I didn't know that until we got married, when his colleague, well, his boss to be exact, came to hug me and kissed my hand on our wedding day. He became so furious to a point that he actually wanted to just eat the poor guy alive. He busted on the guy and ended up being physical with him. I didn't understand why he would do that because the guy didn't do anything wrong. I tried to stop him, but it was like he was in his own dimension, and he didn't want to be stopped. I was so embarrassed and heartbroken about what he did to a point that I left the venue and went home. I started being scared of him. I couldn't even look at him or even try to be near him after the predicament that had taken place on our wedding day. A few days later, as I was avoiding him, he asked to speak to me. That was when he told me about his condition, and that it had started when he was 6 years old, when he had to experience seeing his mother getting physically abused by his stepdad, who would also get physical with him. He grew up with that anger. He told me that his condition would only last for about 30 minutes or when the rage goes down or gets satisfied. His childhood story was depressing, heartbreaking, and sad, but that didn't mean he should act like a monster to people whenever he felt threatened. So I vowed to help him, or get him help, so he would at least be able to control his condition even in tough situations. I knew that it wasn't going to be easy to convince to get help or speak to someone about it, but trying never hurt anyone, right? As his wife, I had to put my fears aside and find a way to help my husband in every way possible. So I tried talking to him about getting him a therapist so we would get to the bottom of everything, so he would be able to control the anger he had. He declined my plea at first, but I convinced him, and even threw a few threats before he gave in and agreed to get help. We were married for 3 years and things started changing. When I say changing, I don't mean in a good way, but in the worst way possible. I started realizing that Kyle and I were way too different than I had thought. He was what I loved, but not what made me happy. I started realizing that I had contributed so much in our relationship and forgot about my own happiness and self-worth. Kyle is a workaholic. He is always serious, working, going out to eat, romantic dinners, and spending a lot of money on me like I was selling. I didn't like all of that. I loved him, yes, but I was not happy. No matter how much he had tried to make me happy, but he was failing dismally. I had once tried to introduce him to clubs and exploration, but he just got bored and it was like I was alone in the whole thing. In this marriage, I felt like I was trapped in a relationship or marriage that was full of love but unfulfilling. I mean, I love being intimate, exploring new styles and positions, but Kyle was always all about the simple and straightforward intimate moments. He would sometimes give up while I would still be enjoying the moment and begging for more. He would just tell me that he was tired, which came to me as a huge bummer. So I would end up satisfying myself with some toys which I didn't want. Our marriage became so dull, like we were old people who have joint and muscle problems. Kyle had a little to no time to even spend with me. I had noticed that when I took a 2 months leave off work, even during the weekend when we were supposed to be spending time together. He would always make excuses about being busy with the film editing and whatnot. I was getting bored each and every time he would make that lame excuse. I tried being patient with him, but instead of changing, he kept getting worse. Over time, I started seeking excitement and validation. I wanted to feel happy for once since my husband was not doing the job. I tried going out a few times, even tried taking Kyle to explore a few countries, but it was like I was the only one on the trip because he was stuck on his work. The only time he would actually give me his attention was during dinner or if we were not indoors. To Kyle, I was like a trophy wife, the wife that will be the face of wherever you go. So one day I felt the need to visit where my husband, or let me just say my ex-husband, worked. During the honeymoon phase in our relationship, I would sometimes visit him or maybe deliver lunch for him. So I went to his work with the hope that he would maybe notice me and try to hide the tension that was between us. I didn't even know where it came from, but we were just so tense. We were like two strangers that were forced to live together for some sort of sake. When I got there, I found him busy. Well, he was in a meeting, so I was told to wait in his office. As I waited for him, I noticed that there was a time schedule for Kyle's work. So I decided to just take a picture of it and save it so that I can know how he was working. I was just trying to bring back the spark that we had in our relationship when we were still dating. I couldn't let myself believe that maybe I was no longer enough for my husband. I had to try and make it work, not only for me but for us and our marriage. As I was still waiting for Kyle, his boss came into the office and asked where Kyle was. I told him that he was in a meeting. He then started making a lame and boring but funny conversation. We talked a lot, and I had noticed that we actually had some things in common. We were getting along very well, and we just clicked, He was exactly what I needed, which was fun. He, the boss, asked for my number and told me that he would call me when they have auditions. I couldn't let that opportunity slip away just like that, so I gave him my number. He called my phone so that I can have his number also. Oh, I forgot to mention that my hubby's boss introduced himself as William Davis, male 36. Since the day we exchanged numbers, we started talking a lot via social media, WhatsApp and Facebook to be exact. My husband's boss and I were like a combo that communicated so well. We had the same personalities, same interests and desires. One day there was a year-end party for all the employees at Kyle's work. The guy, the boss, was there, and he had invited me to go with him to an annual music festival that was taking place in New Orleans. I wanted to decline his offer, but I thought about my boring marriage life, so I went with him. Besides, Kyle was not even around, so I was bored. We had so much fun, we danced and drank. I felt like I was where I was made to be. The conversation between me and the guy was flowing. No one was forcing anything. The connection and the spark was there. As the night proceeded, I found myself entangled in a passionate affair with my husband's boss. Though he was a bit older than me, he made me feel alive. He didn't have to try hard to know what I needed in order to be happy. I felt like he just knew what I needed without me even saying a single word. Well, our affair started that night when we went to the festival. On that night, a lot had happened because I remember us talking about the biggest movie that they were going to shoot and the upcoming auditions, telling me that I should come to their theater and audition for a leading role. All I can remember is that one minute we were drinking and dancing, well, more like jamming to the soulful music that was playing. The next minute, we felt each other's heartbeats. I felt like I had finally found what I had been looking and longing for. I loved Kyle a lot, and I knew that he also loved me too much. But love alone is never enough when there's no happiness in it. I respected my marriage and loved the way William was touching me and holding me in high regards, but that was not enough. I felt like there was something amiss, and I had found it through William. He, William, was what I had always been praying for, what my soul had yearned for, and finally the universe had answered my heart and soul desires. William had a very big tool. It even showed when he was wearing pants. I craved it the first time I saw his and print on his suit, and I found myself getting desiring what I saw in that man's trousers. Unfortunately, my hubby was not even gifted in that department, so I wanted to test how big tools work. My husband was no longer doing an awesome job, so I got tempted and ended up committing an abomination. In my marriage, I felt alone and neglected. My needs were not met. So the affair that I had with William provided me with a temporary reprieve from my marital dissatisfaction. I believe that by indulging in this forbidden passion, I could or would awaken something in my husband Kyle and break through his nonchalant demeanor. William was explosive, like I was both in traveling and intimately. We were intimately connected, and I loved and enjoyed every moment that we had shared. He knew how to explore my body and make me find myself speaking a foreign language. That night, he told me to go with him to the hotel that he had booked for us. Well, he had booked 2 rooms, but we ended up sleeping in his room. He told me that he wanted us to start auditioning for the leading role since the auditions were going to take place in 3 days, so he wanted to make sure that I was ready and fit for the role. That was the lifetime opportunity. I knew that if I were to get that role, a lot of doors would be opened. As much as I wanted to decline, but I couldn't resist it, I needed that breakthrough. Days passed, the day of auditions came. I didn't even tell Kyle this because I knew that he was going to have a problem with me acting for his company. On the night that I had shared with William, all I can remember well was rehearsing for the role, talking about what I should do and what I should expect. Then as we were talking like that, I ended up opening up to him about my failing marriage. I know that I shouldn't have spoken to a total stranger about my marriage, but I couldn't help it. I think it was the alcohol playing its role in the system. So I got the role and I was super ecstatic. When William told me that I got the role, but I would have to wait for the confirmation email, I just couldn't help it. I couldn't wait to share the good news with my husband when he gets back to work. Kyle came back late that night and I had cooked a very nice dinner with all his favorites and even lit the candles just for some romantic kind of a thing. When he came back, I was getting ready for bed and I had lost all the appetite and energy that I had. Kyle didn't understand how much that had hurt me. I somehow felt like I was no longer beautiful to him, like he had lost his interest in me, I started doubting myself, telling myself that maybe my husband had found someone else who was much better than I am. I had a lot of self-doubt, so I started looking down on myself. I was just going through a lot. Yes, I was attending the film shooting, and I was just glad that during my depressing days I was shooting a sad scene, so my state wasn't that notable. A lot of people were asking how I got the leading role. Some speculated that I had slept with the boss. It was just chaos. I knew that he would also speculate that I had slept with his boss, of which I did actually, but I wouldn't give them something to talk about, and it would put me and William in trouble, so I kept my mouth shut. We almost dated, Me and William, because William kept asking me to come over to his crib and what's not. He missed me, blah, blah, blah. I was also taken by William, but I couldn't risk it, plus the universe, and God had other thoughts about the affair. Kyle found out about the night that I had spent with William. I don't know how he found out, but he did, and it didn't go well to a point that even today I'm still feeling the wrath of my own medicine. When Kyle found out about the affair, I didn't think twice. I warned William and told him to deny everything if Kyle was to come to him and ask him questions, even though it was too late and the damage had already been done. If there was someone to blame in all of this drama, that person would be me. I failed to stay loyal and faithful to my husband like I had said on my wedding vows. I wanted more than what God and the universe had blessed me with, and went against my oath to love, cherish, be faithful and loyal to my husband through sickness and in health. I craved what my husband didn't give me, and I failed to hold and ignore the temptations. Instead, I fell for it. When Kyle discovered the truth about my infidelity, he was devastated. His trust in me shattered, and I know he felt betrayed and humiliated. By the way, Kyle found the evidence of my abomination with William when one sunny weekend afternoon, we were spending time together after a very long time. I was happy to see that he was changing and becoming the man that I had fallen in love with, but intimately I still needed William for my satisfactions. Of course, I had denied the accusations that he planted in me. It wasn't a nice argument, but we ended up making out. That day when Kyle and I were chilling in, watching Netflix while reminiscing about our first date and looking at our pictures and videos, it was a very great day for us. We were finally where I had always wanted us to be. I say accidentally because I had been keeping my phone to myself, making sure that Kyle doesn't get to it. Left my phone on top of the kitchen counter and went to take a bath since Kyle and I had planned to have our dinner at a restaurant. So William called while I was still bathing and preparing for the dinner date with my husband. Little did I know that my husband actually answered my phone. So when I went back to the lounge to get my phone, I found Kyle looking at it. Well, more like going through it. When I got closer, I discovered that he was reading my text messages with William. I asked him what he was looking at and I needed my phone. The only thing he said to me was, "Is this what you always do when you go to the shooting? You sleep with my boss?" He also asked me where I was a month ago because I had told him that I was visiting my cousin in Brooklyn, while I knew very well that I was going to a festival with his boss. His questions caught me off guard, and when I looked at him, I saw that he was trying by all means to control his rage, but he was highly enraged because there were veins coming out of his forehead. I tried explaining to him, more like trying to lie about my night with William along with the kind of a relationship that we had, but he couldn't hear any of it. Instead, his anger kept escalating up until he couldn't keep it in anymore. He couldn't control it, so he just took my phone with him and stormed out of the house. I was left devastated and scared of what Kyle would do. I was scared that his disorder would somehow find a way to unleash itself and maybe injure people or himself. I was super scared. I didn't know what to expect with Kyle because of his intermittent explosive disorder, IED condition. You can't guarantee what you can expect from him. We had tried for so long to make him be able to control it, and he had been doing a very great job at it. But within a blink of an eye, I am the one who brought it back in full force. As much as Kyle's disorder was worrying me, especially since he had stormed out of the house, but what terrified me the most were the pictures that I had been sending to William. Yes, William and I were exchanging sexy pictures of ourselves, including the intimate pictures that we had taken when we were in our moments. We had become what we call friends with benefits and no strings attached, but we were only doing virtual intimacy, meaning I was helping myself and he was too. But we called each other's name while in that moment. I didn't know if Kyle had seen the pictures, but obviously he had, and I didn't want to see his reaction to them. I had never sent my own husband those kinds of pictures, but I was able to send them to his boss. So I remained in the house until he came back, of which he came back right after midnight. Mind you, I had started being worried about him, thinking that maybe he had done something to himself, or something had happened to him, or took out his rage on other people, only to find out that he was okay and not even drunk or anything. The following couple of days were really tough on me because Kyle hadn't given my phone back. He was back to his normal self like nothing had happened, though I tried to be normal and move on like he was, but I was unsettled. That time I couldn't even ask him about my phone because I didn't know what or how his reaction would be, so I just let him be. It was very unusual for Kyle to just be quiet and not do anything. I smelled something fishy with him. I told myself to wait for the worst and not relax until I got my phone back. 1 week later, I managed to get myself a banner phone to call William to check if he was okay. I was worried that maybe Kyle would have done something to him, and I found out that he was actually in hospital. He was involved in a car accident on his way back home from work. I knew that Kyle was somehow behind the accident. It just couldn't be a coincidence, right? I mean, the man I call my husband just stormed out of the house and went to wherever, the place that he only knew where. Little did I know that the worst was yet to come. So when I got to the theater, I was called by William's wife since she was the one in charge since William was in hospital. She got me fired on the spot. The woman lashed out on me, calling me names in front of other casts. Mind you, I didn't even know that William actually had a wife. And for that night that I had spent with him, it had put my life and my career in jeopardy. You know, despite the fact that I had slept with William and maybe, just maybe, I got the leading role for that. Another thing, Kyle had warned me to stay the hell away from William and told me that he doesn't want to see me anywhere near him. But what did I do? I closed my ears and listened to the greed and desires. Yes, I love acting and everything that comes with it, but did it really have to cost me my reputation and my marriage? Was it all worth it? The woman told us that she had suspended William for having an affair with an employee and gave that employee a role that she didn't deserve. You know, she said all that in front of me while she was busy bursting on me and calling me names. Kyle was actually standing with the crowd watching the unknown lady making it rain with insults on me. I couldn't believe Kyle, you know. I thought he was going to be my husband for once and defend me at least. Or maybe take me out of that humiliating moment, but no, he didn't. But instead, he just stood there and watched me being roasted by his boss's wife. As if that was enough, you know, I felt a huge dark cloud hanging over me. It was like it was my unlucky moments or a period of time. So when I finally managed to get out of the theater, I was highly humiliated and degraded, you know. Some even took videos of Mrs. roasting me with huge insults and calling me a homewrecker. The only sin that I did was spending the night with William and having a sexual relationship with him, which was against the company's pros and cons. Firstly, I didn't know that the guy was married, and I should have declined his invitation to go to the festival. A lot would have been avoided. On another hand, Kyle was not giving me any break. Okay, he had blocked my bank cards. He chased me out of the house, but that wasn't the worst thing he did to me. So one day he woke up early and prepared breakfast for us, which was highly surprising and alarming because the Kyle that I knew didn't like to stand in front of the stove. Yes, he knew how to cook, but he doesn't like it, even if it's making eggs. So that day he did all that, showered me with love and even complimented my beauty. Stupid me, I believed him, and thought that he was back to his old self, and our marriage had a chance to survive. You know, sometimes when you know that you did something as horrible as the one that I had committed, just stay vigilant and cautious because you will never know what your partner or the person you did wrong is thinking or her next move. So that day, Kyle told me that we were going somewhere. He wanted to introduce me to a new food corner not far from where we stayed. So because I love food and trying new things, I agreed to go with him. He told me that he was the one driving, and I didn't have any problem with that. So he drove us, and another thing, he had blindfolded me, saying that it was a surprise, so I had to see it when he uncovers my eyes, and I would see his best gift to me. Mind you, that time we took my car, meaning if he was to start with his episodes, I would be left stranded in the street. So as he was driving, I asked myself when we're arriving and where we were going. After about an hour of driving, the car finally came to halt, and I couldn't wait to see what the surprise was. So he took me outside the car. You know, I was hearing some sounds like tractors or something, but I didn't pay attention to it. So after like 15 minutes or less of walking that we did, Kyle was guiding me by the way. He eventually uncovered my eyes, and when I got my sight back, I just couldn't believe what I saw. When I opened my eyes after closing them just to be sure that I wasn't dreaming, and yep, I wasn't dreaming. Kyle took me to the scrapyard to smash my car. When he uncovered my eyes, he made sure that he uncovers them when the car crasher lifted my car up because I wouldn't do anything to stop the process. Mind you, the car was a gift from my father on my 25th birthday. I tried begging Kyle to stop them from crashing my car, but it was like I was speaking and begging a pole. He just smiled, looked me in my eyes, and told me that the way that they were crashing my car is exactly the way that I had crashed his heart. I couldn't believe Kyle, you know. And the funny part is that I love him. I still love him a lot, but I don't miss him. Kyle is so evil because even now, he is still on the mission of destroying my life as if he hasn't finished yet. I really don't know where to start trying to erase him from my memory, my heart, and everywhere. For now, I'm just glad that I'm still kicking and breathing. I don't know what to do. I want to erase this love that I have for him, but I can't. Kyle really did a number on me. Yes, I had done him wrong in a worst way possible, but I don't think anyone deserves to ruin like this. You know, after I saw Kyle smashing my car in that scrapyard, I felt like there was a piece of me that was taken by force from my soul and was smashed with that car. To tell the truth, I didn't think that Kyle would actually pull such a stunt to ruin me. Yes, he succeeded to tear my heart and my whole life apart, and I hope he had found peace and happiness in what he did. You know, after Kyle smashed my car, he literally ordered a cab. I had thought he was going to be sympathetic and take me home at least, but he just left me there. Mind you, I didn't even know where we were. I don't know the place, and I won't even remember which roads we took because he had me blindfolded. I had never thought that one day I would feel Kyle's wrath. To tell the truth, it's not a very nice thing. He makes sure that you even regret the day that you agreed to be his girlfriend. I had taken Kyle's explosive disorders for granted, you know, but it was really dangerous. It made him dangerous. After he left me at the scrapyard, I decided to call my Nana with my banner phone and asked her to fetch me. Since I didn't know where I was, I looked for any scrapyard worker so I could ask them where I was at. Luckily, one generous guy told me the name of where I was at. Then I told my Nana. After that, I wanted nothing to do with Kyle. My Nana was really angry and disappointed in me when I told her what had happened. I wasn't going to tell her, but her neighbor's daughter had seen a video of me being roasted by William's wife in front of others. So she showed my Nana that video, then she asked me about it. It's not something I would say I'm proud to share because it's really shameful. So instead of having a self-pity party, I wanted to try and pick up the broken pieces that Kyle had broken. The funny part is that I still do love him even after what he did. Is it possible to love someone but not miss them? I want to erase every single thing that has Kyle in my life. I just want to forget about him and his existence in my life and move on. What should I do? Any advice is accepted except for judgments.